Welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. The Chinese Association of Montreal once again calling on the city to do something. Calling on the city for help to deal with the increase in drugs and violence that is happening in Chinatown. Mayor Valerie Plante saying she's visited Chinatown recently and is doing a lot, but the association not necessarily believing what they're hearing from the city of Montreal. And of course, there is a rise in homelessness on the city that's also impacting the area. With more on this, let's go to Bryant Chang, Vice President of the Chinese Association of Montreal. Bryant, welcome back to the show.
Yes. Hi, Elias.
Bryant, how bad is it?
The situation right now, I can tell you right now, there's been a slight improvement because of the 4 press conferences that we've had recently. But prior to that, I think it reached its peak towards the end of July. And that was when we called our first press conference. The main concern was what we call tent city, which was behind Brady Lane. So when after that first press conference, sure enough, there was an arrest taking place, and I think within 2 weeks that tent city was dismantled. But the problems with it's not strictly the homelessness; it's the drug addicts and the dealers and the petty criminals, which running around, just endangering the lives of. I wouldn't say endangering their lives, but it's just that it's very scary. The most vulnerable citizens in Chinatown are afraid to come out. And they're like being prisoners in their own homes.
And Brian, I struggle sometimes even with doing this story because I don't want people to think, I don't want this segment to turn into an advertisement to make people believe that Chinatown is unsafe, right? Mm-hmm. So it's so difficult to tackle, but there clearly is a problem if residents feel they can't leave their front door. So what do you believe the focus should be on from the city, from the police?
Okay. This problem is not just unique to Chinatown. I want to emphasize that, okay? This is a problem that exists in the whole downtown core. I'm talking about the village. I'm talking about parts of old Montreal, and then, of course, the Milton Park area and Chinatown. And it seems that each time if the police concentrates on cleaning up one sector of the downtown, they move on to the next one. I mean, basically, we've seen the same crowd move back and forth between the gay village and Chinatown. Just as an example, 2 weeks ago, we had what's known as the Asian night market, and I know there was a heavy police presence down there. So the homeless people started moving on, and that's when they created the problem in the village the following week. And I'm sure you're aware of the beating of the Chinese couple on St. Catherine Street.
Yeah, no, and Bryant, are you there? Sorry, did we lose the connection?
Yes, I'm here.
So I don't know if you wanted to add anything more about what happened to that couple.
Well, I know that they went back and interviewed them on 2 other occasions, but other than that, because they're sort of outside the Chinatown vicinity, we haven't really had a chance to talk to them. But I just want to also let you know, Elias, is that in the span of those 4 press conferences that we've had, there has been, at least as far as we know, 3 stabbings. Okay,
oh, geez.
And there were 2 deliberate fires set behind businesses in Chinatown, and there was of course that suicide on Clark Street, where the man jumped off the rooftop of a building on Clark Street. Mm-hmm. So I mean, this type of activity cannot continue on. Okay, we're not only talking about the public safety, but there's also the public health problems, because that homeless shelter at Public Ski Road, it's only a part-time shelter. Okay, they're only allowed in between 8 in the evenings to 6 in the morning, mm-hmm. and then they're booted back out onto the streets. And the worst thing is, we find that I do have empathy for a lot of these homeless people. Okay, they're caught in a bad situation, and I'm not trying to say that they're all criminals. Okay, because some of those homeless people themselves are also victims mm-hmm. of crimes. Okay, because it's the drug dealers and the petty criminals that's really concerning. Okay, and that's what's like I say, keeping our most vulnerable citizens in Chinatown from going out.
Now, Bryant, when it comes to ways to tackle this solution, there's some people that would say, well, the solution is we need to build maybe more homeless shelters in the Chinatown area, or we need to build safe, supervised injection sites, inhalation sites for drug users in the area. Do you think those kinds of solutions would help? Are you looking for more of those types of resources, or do you think the solutions are something else?
No, the solution is something else. The city has to rethink their whole planning process right now. Because, first of all, I don't think safety injection sites, it's the answer. What it does is it encourages more drug addicts into the area, rather than, it's a vicious cycle. We don't want to see Chinatown and Montreal become like what it is in Vancouver or in San Francisco. Okay? So that's not an answer. Now, in terms of, I guess, shelters for the homeless, you can't just concentrate it in one part of the city, because there's no easy solution to this, but to open up another homeless shelter after just closing this one that's due to be closed in October. If it's going to be in the vicinity of China, all you're doing is you're shifting locations, but the problem still remains in our community.
Bryant, I just want to ask you one last question here, and that is, you brought up Vancouver, you brought up San Francisco. Do you genuinely have a fear that Montreal's Chinatown, if we keep doing the same type of tactics we're currently doing, will end up looking like those two cities?
I certainly hope not. I'm hoping that there's going to be better solutions than just opening injection sites or homeless shelters. And if you're going to have homeless shelters, it should be homeless shelters that are supervised, not like the chaos that we see with the current shelter down in the complex Guy Favreau.
Bryant, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on the show and allowing us to highlight the issue in Chinatown. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Elias.
Bryant Chang is Vice President of the Chinese Association of Montreal.